This is Foghorn with another installment of Flight School Academics. For this, the 25th of May, 2954, or 2024, if you're stuck in the past, this presentation is part of an ongoing series of academics from members of the Aurora Republic, the premier role-playing organization in Star Citizen. If you are new to the Aurora Republic or visiting us for the first time, let me start by saying welcome. Thank you very much for visiting us. We're glad to have you with us. Love to hear more from you if you're interested in hearing more from us. We're a lawful good organization focused on roleplay exploration and social interaction and are currently active in recruiting on Spectrum and Gilbid. Okay, so tonight we are going over the last in our series for money making in Star Citizen mining. So very quickly we'll go over the process loop, what equipment's involved in mining, locations, and some notes that go through. Actually, the notes are going to be sprinkled all throughout the presentation. So the game loop is pretty simple. You have to go out and find the things to mine. Then you have to fracture the rock into pieces, depending on whether you're mining ores or mining gemstones. That may be the last of it. If you're fracturing gemstone rocks, that's once you bust the rock into pieces, that's when it spits out the loot pinata worth of gemstones. You just pick those up, put them in your backpack, put them in your rock or your rock DS, and then go on to the next one. If it is an ore, then you may have to fracture the smaller pieces again if they are not small enough to be extracted, and then you go into extracting and collecting, and then taking the ores back to either be immediately sold as a raw ore or to be going to a refining station and setting them up as a refining job to turn them from a raw ore into a saleable commodity. And I'll show you both how all of that works. Okay, the equipment, there's lots of vehicles, gadgets, laserhead modules, and more gadgets. So we'll go through all of those vehicles. As far as ground vehicles, there is both a ROC and a ROC DS. The ROC stands for the Remote Ore Collector, which is funny because it doesn't collect ore, it collects gems, but whatever. So that is a single solo man, four-wheeled vehicle that has the mining laserhead sitting outside on an arm that you can control and go find those big gemstone rocks, blast them apart, and suck them up, hoover them up into the cargo compartment on the backside of the ROC. The ROC DS is a two-man, larger version of that with a slightly larger mining laser array. For that, it's kind of weird. One person drives, the other person sits outside on a seat that is attached to the mining rig itself, like it's a sort of an external turret. Very weird. Not a very popular vehicle to use. The Prospector is the solo ore miner ship. So single man is how it's intended. Of course, you got a little bit of living space in there. So a bunk and stuff like that. So you could have a buddy who's just riding along with you to maybe coach over your shoulder if it's somebody who knows mining better than you do, et cetera, et cetera. But the Prospector has a size 1 mining laser. You can bust up the rocks, and then as you hoover them up, they go into the saddlebags that you can kind of see that sit amidships on the thing's hips, 2 on the right side, 2 on the left side. And those are detachable and replaceable with empty mining bags. So you could, depending on how you want to run it, instead of whenever the Prospector fills up, having to fly back to a refinery or whatever to go sell and or refine the ore material, if you were working with a group, you could actually have a number of Prospectors, and they would just, as they fill up, they would drop their saddlebags, have some people come by with cargo type spacecraft, pick up the saddlebags, leave empties in return, and just have a continuous mining operation. The MOLE, which stands for the Multi-Operator Laser Extractor, is the multi-crew version. Its intended operation is a pilot and 3 miners in 3 different mining turrets. So all 3 of those mining turrets have size 2 lasers, size 2 mining heads. So it is considerably more powerful of a mining craft. It is larger. Has some living space, and I believe has 32 SCU. I believe it has 8 of those saddlebags like the Prospector has, except for that they're bigger in size, and they're all in the very center belly of the ship, but they can still be detachable, just like earlier, just like I said with the Prospector. The Orion is the capital ship size mining vessel made by RSI, and it is massive. It's not in game yet. It's still been concepted a freaking decade ago, and then has been sitting in the back burner ever since. The way it's concepted is this is more of a space miner that you go into an asteroid belt and then chew your way just through all of the asteroids to get all of the goodies materials out and spit out all of the inert material. Gadgets that you'll need if you're going to do FPS hand mining, of course you're going to need your Grey Cat Industrial Pyro multi-tool, and you're going to need the Orbit mining attachment attached to the front of that, which turns that thing into a hand laser. You definitely are going to need a backpack if you're going to be grabbing gemstones, because you've just the first rock you bust will fill up the pockets of your leg armor and your chest armor. So you definitely need a backpack. That's kind of a big one. And then you also need to give a thought about thermal protection. Not everywhere in Stanton, but there's a couple of moons and planets where you need to be thinking about bringing along either a Pembroke or a Novikov suit for heat or cold, respectively. Because for the hand mining, you are going to have to get out of your ship to go do that. So you're going to be outside for any appreciable length of time. You may want to think about doing it within the appropriate thermal protective suit. Mining laser heads, you can see down the left side there. Each one of those types of mining heads have two different sizes. They have a size 1 and a size 2, obviously, for whether it goes on the prospector or whether it goes on the mole. And they all have different sort of facets, like whether, some will put more power down the beam, some will get rid of more instability of the rock, all that kind of stuff. So they have different characteristics, so you can kind of plan out and play with what you like more. It's not always just how much power can you put down the beam. Sometimes finesse beats raw strength. You can also see their pluses and minuses, basically buffs and debuffs. If it's in a color green, then that means regardless of whether it's a plus or minus, the green part means this is to your advantage. So even if it's it's resistance minus 45% is good. But optimal charge window plus 20% is good, versus the orange is the bad way. So the intention is that every single one of these mining heads has different pluses and minuses, buffs and debuffs. So you have to be judicious about how you're going to set up your equipment and set your rig. And you can see the availability by location. All of these tables that you're going to see in this presentation tonight are hung on the info hub part of our Guilded, so you can go find them and use and look at them and have them up when you go mining if you want to go see what those different stats are. Mining modules are components that plug into the mining head. The different mining heads on that last slide have depending on which mining head it is, they might have either 1, 2, or 3 module slots. So if they have like 3 module slots, then you can choose 3 different or 3 of the same modules to plug in there that will tweak the performance of that particular laser mining head with further buffs and debuffs, as you can see here. Some of them are passive, just plugging them in and they just work all the time, such as the filters and the extractors. But some have maybe a limited number of uses and they have a button that you'll have to hit to activate them, such as like a surge or a stampede, which have, X number of uses and for a certain duration. So they're not running all the time. They're like a boost button, if you will. That you can mash down, and for that it uses up one of the uses of that module, and for that duration then you will get that buff or debuff as appropriate. And again, you can see where their availability is by location. Mining gadgets do similar things to the mining modules, but the mining gadgets are something that you are holding on to your person in FPS, and the idea is you can adjust the resistance or instability, et cetera, of the rock that you're trying to break by first stopping, landing your ship, getting out of your ship, going over and putting this gadget on it, and it sticks to the side of the rock It has some controls. There will be a waveform that you kind of have to adjust a couple of controls to get this waveform to match a template that it shows in there. And when you get it to match close enough, you go, okay, it's in the green, we're good to go. You go back and now you bust the thing down with your laser. And this gives additional, though that mining gadget gives additional buffs or debuffs to different stats of the rock, therefore hopefully making it easier to crack or easier to break, or easier to break in the way that you want. After you break the rock, usually the gadget survives, and so you got to get back out of your ship, go over there and collect your gadget if you want to keep it, and you can throw it back in your backpack and go use it again on the next rock. So a little more time intensive to use the gadgets, but they're very, very powerful. As a matter of fact, when they first came out, I believe it was, I think it was Burks. I think it was Captain Burks, just as a joke, went and got the, I think it's the Optimax, which lowers resistance by 30%, and put something like 24 of them on the biggest rock he could find. And then just so that, because they stack, the effects stack. I think he put like 24 of them on this rock that would take like all 3 lasers of a mole to be able to break, or even multiple moles to be able to break. He put 24 of them on there and then pulled out his pyro multi-tool with the orbit mining attachment and went zzz, just barely touched it, and he got it to break from hands just because of abusing the mining gadget just to prove that you could. It was pretty interesting. So there you go. Are mining gadgets absolutely necessary? Nope. Can they help things out? Absolutely. But the downside is that it's going to take a little extra time, because you're going to have to get out, go put it up, come back in, break the rock, go back out, pick up the gadget, put it back, and continue about your way. All right. So where to find the rocks and gemstones to bust, and where to go sell them, where to make the money. So locations for you're going to find are out at the Lagrange points, asteroid fields, and rings for any of the asteroids that you can scan and hopefully find goodies to bust into and mine into. Down on planetary surfaces, and then of course down in caves as well. When you're scanning around, if it is a ore rock, it'll things now will first say unknown when they're out at distance, but when you get in close enough and you get a better scan on them, and your system gets close enough and gets enough information to be able to figure out what's in that thing, that unknown contact, then it'll resolve to either a rock symbol or a gemstone symbol to tell you that, hey, this is an ore rock mineable, or this is a gem rock mineable. Down in caves, there's only the gem rocks, so there's no ore mining down in caves yet. I don't think they plan on it. So, you're going to go down with, if you're going to go into the caves, it's always fun to bring a orbit mining attachment on your multi-tool with you, because you can always, hey, there's a rock right there in that corner, bust it real quick, pick up the gemstones, and go about whatever else you're doing down in the cave. And that's just extra money that you're going to be packing out in your backpack. In the asteroid, any place you find an asteroid, do not just assume that it's only an ore rock. If it scans and shows an ore rock, you may want to fly up close enough to it with your headlights on and take a good look out the window, because a lot of these ore rocks also have gem rocks on the surface of them. So you can, if you choose that you want those gems as well, then you can get out, hand mine the gems while you're EVA in space, then go back inside and use the laser and finish breaking the big rock to get the ore. So they're not necessarily a one or the other. Some of those rocks, and particularly rocks, if you find one that has quantanium, the quantanium seems to always have gemstones hanging off of it, as at least it did in 3.22. I don't know about 3.23. I haven't done any mining in 3.23. Okay, once you get filled up with either the gems or the ores that you want, then you get to come back to a station and decide whether you want to refine them or just sell them directly. Obviously, with gemstones, those are just direct to sale items. So you go to either an admin office at a station, or you can go to a TDD and sell the gemstones directly to them. The prices are fixed for the gemstone rocks, unlike the mineable ores. So the gemstone rocks, those prices have not changed, and we'll show you those in a sec. So, that's it's so the gemstone rocks are very, very predictable about what you're going to make, because it's going to be, the hadenite is 275 creds per gemstone that you have in your pack. If you have ore, if you're coming back in a mole or a prospector with ore, then you have a decision to make. If you just want to sell the ore as is and get back out on your way, then you need to go to a station that has a refinery deck. That's pretty much the Lagrange point stations. So any of the L1 through 5s of pretty much any of them. Not absolutely every Lagrange point station has a refinery deck, but the vast majority do. And oh, by the way, I didn't add it into the slides, but the 3 jump point gateway stations have both a cargo deck and a refinery deck, so you can actually go there as well. If you go into the refinery deck, you go all the way back to the foreman's office. As you come all the way through the refinery deck, looking at all the crucibles pouring out molten metals and stuff for visual show, you go into the back and there's the store, the mining store, where you can buy mining heads and everything. Not in there. You go up the stairs on top of the store. There's it looks like a foreman's office. You go up in there and you'll see what you're seeing on the screen right here. You have a set of 2 kiosks kind of over on the left side of the foreman's office that are about waist high kiosks. Those are for buying and selling raw ore. If you would like to make more money per unit out of that raw ore, then you can go over to the 2 kiosks on the right that are full person height kiosks, and you can set up a refinery job for that, for your load of raw ore that's in your prospector or your mole. You can choose what method. It'll tell you how much it'll cost, how much time it'll take, and what its yield is. So there's some economics that are playing in there between time, cost, and how much yield it'll give. And it will cost you a small amount of money to set up and pay for the refining job. But the refined material that you get from the raw ore is much more valuable, a couple orders of magnitude more valuable than just the raw ore is, but you will have to wait that time for whatever that refinery job takes. Also, when a refinery job is done, the product of it is no longer a mineable ore. It's now a saleable commodity. So you don't transport it with a rock or with a prospector or a mole. It just turns into SCU boxes of refined titanium or gold or quantanium, whatever it is. So now you pull out your cargo ship, throw it in there, and then you can go fly that to a TDD somewhere to sell off those commodities. And that's how you make your monies. Different refinery decks at different locations have different bonuses for different materials. So certain refineries are a little bit better at, say, refining quantanium than they are for gold, and vice versa. So you can see where those are here. Across the top is all of the refinery decks, not including the 3 jump point gate stations. So Hurston L1 and L2, Crusader L1, Arc Corp L1, 2, and 4, and Microtech L1, 2, and 5 are where the refinery stations are, and you can see there where their goods and bads are. If you want to make a little bit of extra scratch on the through the efficiency of the refining process. Okay, so just some notes on prices. These prices are as of 3.22. I have not double checked the ore prices. I did double check the gemstone prices because I did a guide session like 2 days ago with a kid who wanted to go hand mining. So we went and did that. And I can confirm that dolomite is still 130 per, aphorite is still 152.5 per, and hadenite is still 275. And if you can find janelite, go buy a lottery ticket. Because you are one lucky mofo. The refined ore prices, I have no idea because I haven't done it. So we can figure that out tonight, I guess, as we go mine, see if the ore prices. I don't think that they've changed because I think that would have been mentioned in the patch notes, but we can see. Likelihood of what you'll find by either asteroid type or deposit type if you're down on a surface, you can see here. Again, I don't know if these distributions have changed with 3.23. They didn't mention it, so I'm going to assume that they're the same as they were in 3.22. And one of the biggest things I can note here is you see this RS for this signature. If you say you're out in the asteroid field, you're sending out a ping, ping, ping. You see an unknown out there at distance. Instead of flying over to it to get close enough to see what it is, what you can do is narrow down your scan beam, focus it in the center there, and then hold down and do a detail scan. And even if it doesn't resolve what it is, it will give in the data that comes up, it'll give you this RS number. Those RS numbers are channelized hard numbers to exactly what asteroid or deposit type that is that you just scanned from 6 to 9 kilometers out. So you can actually see what's there without having to fly over to it if you take the time to do that tight beam scanning. Assuming that they didn't change it for 3.23. Again, I don't think they did because they didn't mention of having touched mining at all between 3.22 and 3.23. So gemstone likely locations as far as the distribution there. Notice that Aberdeen and Ariel are the two places that you probably want to consider a Pembroke heat suit if you're going to be outside the spacecraft for any appreciable length of time. And Selin, Lyria, Walla, Microtech, Calliope, and Euterpe, you probably want to consider a Novikov cold suit for the same reason. Okay, ore percentages by locations in space. So in this particular chart, yellow doesn't mean like bad or medium. It means actually that's the best for that column and row. And green means still pretty good. So if you're really looking for Quantanium, then really the bestest place to go is Mike L2 Alpha. Because yeah, that has a 2.3% chance of any scanned rock being having Quantanium in it. The best you get anywhere else is 2.1 and 2 or less. So, and you can see that distribution there. Again, these are hung, I believe, on our in our info hub from the last time we went over this almost a year ago. So they should still be there. And as far as I know, they're still good. Again, or similarly, ore distribution by location on surface. So again, if you're looking for Quantanium on the ground, Selin looks like the place to go. Selin, Magda, and Ida all have a distribution of 2.4. Difficulties. So what is in the rock adjusts the difficulty of the rock. So Quantanium has a the rock will be highly unstable. That's why it's the hardest to break, hardest to crack, because your power, the absorbed power, is going to go all over the place because it has a factor of 10 to whatever the RNG roll for that particular rock is. You can see the other tier 1 stuff tends to be also fairly unstable. And as you get down into the lesser valuable ho-hum stuff, they get easier to break the rock because they don't put in as much variance, instability, or resistance in there. So then that wraps up this installment of Academics with Foghorn. Hope you found it interesting and helpful. If you have any questions I didn't answer, please feel free to contact me via email, Gilded, Spectrum, or of course the comment section below. If you're watching this later, I'll answer to the best of my ability as soon as I see it. Hit those follow and subscribe buttons, comment your comments in the comments. We're always striving to improve our content. We actually do read your stuff, take to heart the stuff that's useful, and then mock the stuff that's not. You can find out more information about the Aurora Republic at aurorarepublic.space, or of course on Spectrum at robertspaceindustriescom/org/aurora-rep. See you next time. Foghorn signing off, wishing you a very pleasant remainder of your morning, afternoon, and or evening. Thank you so very, very much for watching.